Okay, so moving on into question number 2, it says, given the quadratic function f of x equals 1/2 x squared plus x minus 1, complete each part below. Okay, so this is the function that we were given, and part A says, find the vertex. If you remember from the previous video, we just covered this formula right here. X of v equals negative b divided by 2a. So again, really, you need to know this formula, so make sure that you're familiar with it and that you memorize it. If you don't know this formula, then you might find it hard to solve the problems, but as long as you know this formula right here, believe me, your life will be way easier. So in order to find the vertex, that means you need to get to an ordered point. In order to get there, you need to find an x point and then you need to find a y point. So if you are given the formula, the easiest way around to find the vertex will be first find the x so that later on you can find your y coordinate. So to find the x so you can say that x of v equals negative v divided by 2a. We can say that negative v is the number that we have right up front of the x, so it's gonna be 1, right? Since we have a negative here, it's gonna be negative 1, then divided by 2, and I need to find a. Going back to the equation, we can say that a is the number that is always in front of the x squared. So my a value this time is gonna be 1/2. So negative 1 divided by 2 times 1/2. When you solve it, you'll see that your x of the x of the vertex equals negative 1. Once you know the x of the vertex, you can go ahead and by using the same formula, every time that you have an x here, here, and here, you're gonna use that value that you found as the x of the vertex, and you're gonna substitute an x by minus 1. So going here, it goes like this: f sub negative 1 equals 1/2 times negative 1 squared plus negative 1 minus 1. When you go ahead and you do your math, you will see that the final result will be f, which is result also equals your y, will be f sub negative 1 equals negative 3/2. So now that you know the x of the vertex, and now that you know the y of the vertex, you can rewrite it this way. So never ever forget to write it this way as an ordered pair. Although you found the values here and over here, you always have to write them as an ordered pair. Otherwise, he might take a few points off, because this is the formal way to give your final answer. So this is your final answer. Don't just stop. Once you find these numbers, don't just stop there. Rewrite it as an ordered pair. Moving into part B, it says find the y-intercepts. What you're gonna do, so if you want to find the y-intercepts, you need to know that you find the y-intercepts by saying that all your x's will be set equals to 0. So every time you have an x, that x will be equal to 0. You can go ahead and use the same formula they gave you, and every time you have an x here, here, and here, that will be equal to 0. So by rewriting all x's as 0, you will end up with this: y equals negative 1. Again, you cannot stop right here, so you have to write it as an ordered pair. My y-intercept will be when my x equals 0, my y equals negative 1. This is the right way: x equals 0, comma, y negative 1. Moving into part C, it says find the x-intercepts if any exists. Sometimes there might be one y-intercept, sometimes there might be two, sometimes there might be none y-intercepts at all. So in order for you to solve it, again, you can go back, use the same formula there you are given, use the same formula over here, and all you have to do is just make sure that you have, see here, make sure that you have everything on one side, everything equals to 0, because when you are solving for the x-intercept, that means that your y value, your y equals to 0. So you don't have to write this down, although it's nice. So if you want to do it, it's okay. If you don't want to, then you don't have to. So when your y equals 0, then you have this equation here. I just want to make my life easier, so I just divided everything, I multiply everything by 2. That actually makes the equation looks a little bit easier, because you can get rid of this fraction that you have up front, and you can get just a linear expression without fractions. You don't have to do it that way, but that will make the exercise way more easier. So your next step will be to find the x-intercept. You can just go ahead and use the the quadratic formula. So make sure again that you know this formula: negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Make sure that you know that formula. This formula right here and this formula that we just used a few minutes ago, those two formulas are really important. So make sure that you are familiar with both of them. Once you have your equation this way, or you can get the values right from here. So my b value is gonna be 2, and my a value is gonna be the one I have in front of the x squared, and then my c value is gonna be the whole number, so it's gonna be negative 2. By using that formula, you can just go ahead, do your math. Again, don't forget about the plus or minus signs. Most people do it, and that will be a big mistake. So don't forget there is a plus or minus sign in between your b value here, and the radicand. So don't forget about the plus or minus. You go ahead, you do your math, you do everything else, and you will see that once you get here, you first have to solve 1 by using the plus sign. So that would be negative 2 plus square root of 12 divided by 2. This is the one I use here. And then the second option will be negative 2 minus, so this time it's a minus, square root of 12 divided by 2. So you have two different options, two different paths that you have to follow. Once you get here, that means that one of your x values will be negative 1 plus square root of 3, and the other value will be negative 1 minus square root of 3. Again, you have to rewrite them as an ordered pair, so don't just stop right here. Remember that you have to spread your answer as an ordered pair. That's all you need to know for question number 2. It's pretty easy, straightforward. There should be no type of problem at all, because I believe we have been doing this so far in the class, so I think question number 2 will be actually kind of really easy.